side. That's still. How close are we? We're good? So I'm switching that so I can see from this side. Okay. I'm not used to a curved screen, so I can't even see them without going.
Are we at the right one? How is everybody? Woo! Nice.
So welcome to the Fate panel. So let's start off with a little bit of an introduction first. I'll go ahead first. Some of you in here are familiar with me, and a lot of you are not. So my name is Clinton Bradley. I actually come out of Atlanta, and I host, along with a couple other guys, a panel we call the Type Moon Universe Fan Panel. And that is a very popular panel in Georgia and Tennessee cons, where we basically cover everything in the Type Moon Universe. Thank you. So including Tsukihime, Karno Kyokai, we have a pro Melty Blood player on the panel, if anybody likes Melty Blood. And we talk about some of the more obscure works like Angel Notes and things like that. So I also manage the official Type Moon cosplay group for the Southeast. So if you like Type Moon cosplay and you want to get on any photo shoots, any of the Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida cons, then just get with me. At the end of the panel, we're going to have a QR code for our Facebook page and our Discord, so you guys can join that and get in on all the fun and excitement. So I will say this, I've been cosplaying Type Moon for 8 years, and this is the most fun and accepting cosplay group I've ever been a part of. Like, everybody in the Type Moon fandom is awesome, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So, go ahead.
So I'm Brad. I am obviously in creepy Bluebeard right now. Which the worst thing is, this was all meant as a joke costume while I was getting better in shape to be Berserker Hercules. And then the stupid weave thing kind of just grew into an unhealthy obsession like a character. And so here I am. I've now rebuilt this thing like almost 3 times. I couldn't sit in this the first time I built it because all of my magic emblems were made of foam, so I couldn't bend. And I didn't realize it till I got to the con, which is awful. So I'm like, I would put my bag down and go, someone picked my bag up. I was quite useless. That's fantastic. But no, my favorite idea is still the stupid googly eyes for him. Like,
yeah.
The infectious googly eyes.
Tell them about your panel background.
But as far as panels go, I've probably hosted for probably the last 6-7 years. I've hosted different panels. I'll be doing the My Hero panel tomorrow night, actually. I've actually hosted many panels here. I don't know if anyone has seen any of mine. I've done Sword Art, Naruto, Pokemon vs. Digimon. I've kind of about run the board with different stuff that I and Taylor do. We usually are the co-hosts for most of the panels we do. But I pretty well, I think, am I at 2 years yet as Bluebeard? Probably.
Yeah.
I'm about 2 years.
This is the second year.
Yeah, so I've about been Bluebeard for 2 years now at this point. I've known Fate for a while beyond that, but
I'll never forget at MTAC 2011, I was cosplaying Normal Archer, and you were Alexander Anderson from Helsing, and we were just staying there talking about the Dean anime, which is the only anime that was out at the time. This was before Zero even came out, and I was explaining to you the premise of Fate Stay Night. It was like, that sounds really cool, I want to cosplay from that, and here we are like 2017, but I finally did it.
Yeah, because I hadn't heard of any of them. Like, well, the concept sounds really cool. How bad could it be? And then you learn where it first started from, and you're like, oh. Well, that looks amazing.
What we found out is that Fate fans really like porn.
As it just so happens.
Yeah, no one's afraid of Bluebeard's laptop?
No.
We all know what it's going to be.
I was worried about the other side of the laptop.
There's going to be a bunch of the little starfish floating everywhere. That's the background screen.
My name is Cody Crook. I've been cosplaying Fate. I've been cosplaying for a while now, about 8 years. I've been cosplaying from Fate now for about 3 years, something like that. 3 years. I don't have a whole lot of panel back experience. I've helped with these guys with their panels for a while. I'm actually getting into prop building with a small business and assisting with a lot of my other fellow Fate cosplayers. So I'm more just kind of trying to help out. And,
yeah, if you guys are interested in 3D printed props. Definitely hit this guy up because he makes them on commission.
Yep.
So
We're very cheap. We're a little slow right now, but we're very cheap. So and I know that's really what's most important.
I'm surprised you didn't print your own shed.
What?
I'm surprised you didn't print your own shed.
What? I can't print a wig.
No, I said a
And
shed.
oh my! Oh,
Can't print a
yeah.
wig. There was a Goku with pay 3D printing.
That
would be
like,
interesting.
I thought about 3D printing the cakes, but I don't think they would have looked very appetizing.
And that's cheaper.
necessarily.
And they're
You
gone.
let your guard down. You can go ahead and give those back.
And
while
so
you
you all
yourself.
remember me having this discussion before he ever showed up exactly what was going to happen. That's why I asked if they were glued to the plate.
So good. Taylor.
Oh, is it my turn?
yep, go ahead.
My name is Taylor. I've been helping Brad host a lot of panels for about 8 years now. Then maybe 1 or 2 on my own at a convention when he wasn't there. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm like super new to the whole Fate fandom.
He's our Fate baby.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
As a
I'm
business
not the only
person
one on here
here.
with, well, besides him with facial hair. It's not real though, of course, but. No, I've only seen 0 so far.
And a bridge.
And the abridged
This is going to be an interesting experience then.
But I'm mostly mostly using panels for entertainment, side humor, and just trying to keep the audience laughing in times when like malfunctions go on with videos and we're trying to get everything done, or if something happens to a file and we have to.
Or if we just get really boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We get too droll.
But this is the only cosplay I have so far. So
Right,
I'm hoping to get better. I'm hoping for full
armor
suit.
standard.
That's going to be so awesome.
Yep. All right, Dwayne.
My name is Dwayne Verassi. I've been doing Fate since the original 06 Dean anime. And shortly after that, it was kind of the same with him. It was like, oh, I wonder where this came from.
Yeah.
Oh. And as far as costuming from Fate, this is actually only the 3rd time I've done this. So for the costuming for Fate, I was actually going to have a full one done, but it did not. Everything showed up in time, so this one's kind of a stand-in until then. As far as my panel experience goes, I run the anime track for an entire convention up in Chattanooga called Chattanooga. So I run, what'd you guys say, about 12 to 15 hours of panels every year by myself. So it's, with these guys, I'm usually just kind of side humor like he is and just odds and ends, things like that. I just kind of have fun doing panels and everything. Hey, look, he glows in the dark. How'd you do that?
Is that a Sans back there? All right, so we're ready to begin. So essentially, we want to talk about what Type Moon has done, what they're currently doing, and what they're going to do. So sort of the past, present, future is sort of our vibe for this panel. So Type Moon, when we talk about the Type Moon universe, essentially, things are connected in a way. It's sort of how the Clamp universe works. And all of the works, Tsukihime, Fate Stay Night, all those different works fall under what we call the Nasu-verse. And the reason why we call it that is because they're all written by Kunoko Nasu, one of the original writers for Type Moon, which is why we call it the Type Moon universe. So, there she is. So, Kunoko Nasu, the first actual visual novel that Kunoko Nasu wrote was Tsukihime. So the Karno Kyokai short stories had been written before then, but Tsukihime was technically their first visual novel, which came out in 2001. Who here's read Tsukihime? A couple people, okay. So then in 2004, we got Fate Stay Night, the visual novel. Who here has read that? Ah, there we go, much better. So these 2 visual novels were infamous for being marketed as eroge visual novels, except you had to scroll through about 1,000 pages of text to get to one picture of a
bad
naked
text.
breast. So not a very good,
They're really bad, yeah.
not a very good hentai game. Also made for some absolutely hilarious translations with the hentai scenes as well. Yeah, so
Oh, that's so bad.
a couple years later, the visual novel got a re-release called Rialto Nua that took out all of the hentai scenes and added additional visuals and voice acting. 2006, we got the Studio Dean adaptation of Fate Stay Night, which most people hate. Who here's seen it? Most people have seen it. It was actually my introduction to Type Moon, and I think same with you. And we retroactively found the visual novel after the fact. And there are some things that it does well in a vacuum. and it has actually aged better than most people think. But is it a good adaptation of the visual novel? No. But it's a good way to kind of set yourself up with the basic premise of how the world works, because that's going to make understanding some of the nuances in Zero and some of the other series a lot easier. So, and again, horrible mistranslations. Everybody knows people die when they're killed.
Oh, God.
Wouldn't it have been great if Tsukihime got an anime though? Oh, if only it did. I'm kidding. I actually own the Tsukihime anime, and it's
Sorry.
it's bad, but it's honestly its worst crime is it's just boring. Especially if you don't know the source material, the biggest thing you'll take away from it is, wow, that was really boring, but not objectively terrible. But again, as an adaptation of Tsukihime, it's bare bones at best. Like it barely scratches the surface of all the nuance that's in that story. So Tsukihime had a spin-off fighting game series called Melty Blood. Who here's played Melty Blood? Okay, I think our diehard fans are over here. I see a lot of hands here. So Melty Blood had several different iterations and sequels, like all fighting games do, because they can't just make one complete version, right? So Melty Blood had the awful issue of being formatted just like a visual novel, but a fighting game. So in order to play the story mode, you had to deliberately lose against certain opponents in order to progress the plot. You're like, yeah, I beat this character. What do you mean bad in? Doesn't make any sense. So, and of course, according to the story, you were losing against a superior opponent. So it's like, okay, I totally knew I had to do that. And so then in 2010, Studio Dean gave us an adaptation of the Illuminated Blade Works route of the visual novel. And then in 2011, we got the anime adaptation of the Fate Zero light novel. Who here's seen Fate Zero?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, most everybody's seen it. So, you guys want to talk about Fate Zero for a little bit?
Sure. Well, before that, since we're already starting to get to it, one of the things I like to do usually in my panels to start them off is ask kind of where the audience is on different things. With anime, it's pretty easy. It's like manga, anime, and Japanese versus English, and that's usually the easiest ones. With Fate, unfortunately, it's a lot broader range where things can go. Who here has actually seen or played Fate Night?
Just
Zero. Apocrypha. Who has only watched Emiya Cooks? I'm not bad. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. It's actually really animated, really well.
Oh yeah.
The animation goes from amazing to what is like. It's not bad. It's just
Forgot one.
The beach scene is great.
I think we were just curious as to if anyone had only seen that.
Yeah.
So, how many of you have seen Unlimited Blade Works?
Yeah.
Okay, pretty
Mostly.
well. Yeah, most
I've
everyone.
maybe seen both Unlimited.
What about?
Fate Extra Last Encore?
How about Prisma?
Oh,
Prisma Ilya.
I don't
Now,
know.
how about this? Who's seen the Prisma Ilia movie? Oh, okay. Couple hands up.
Okay. So last question: who has no idea what this is and was brought here by someone else?
They're doing it right. They're doing it right.
He's only slightly not telling the truth.
That was a very relevant question when we first started doing this.
Well, no, it really is. Because, well, the worst thing is like I'm the same. Well, I don't usually care as much on spoilers unless it's something that's going to absolutely destroy the series if you know the ending. Like Code Geass, you know the ending of that.
Yeah.
Should not watch the series.
And that's why there's a third season.
Doesn't matter.
Spoiler: Saber is
Spoilers.
King Arthur.
Oh my god!
Wait.
Wait, no.
No, wait, you still don't know that.
No, they're
tried
not.
to tell you something.
No, they're
My
not.
mind's so blown.
Oh, why can't they?
So who has seen this? Who's seen Fate Prototype? Yo. Yeah.
Why can't they?
Does clips count?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, so you can go to YouTube and find the entire thing because it's just like a short anime they did.
Yeah, it's only like 12 minutes long.
Yeah, it's actually really good, and it has Proto Saber, which is actually true King Arthur with true Excalibur, which is OP as no other.
So this brings up the question as to, if this was the original rough draft for Fate Stay Night, why do we have female Saber and male protagonist? And the answer to that is not actually as clever as you may think. The answer is purely just because, okay, we need to market this eroge visual novel. So the intended target audience does not want to play as a female sleeping with male King Arthur. They want to
Mana transfer.
yeah, they want that the way that it was actually done. So
They have a bunch of lonely men in Japan.
Yeah.
that's true, and it's actually a big issue, but we won't go to that.
Like, that's another entire
That's a whole other panel altogether. Yeah.
But
So yeah, a lot of people question when they saw that prototype was the original rough draft, like why did we even change it in the first place? Why did we introduce the gender bend? That is ultimately the honest reason. Is just you're playing an ero gay visual novel. You need a female harem for the main male protagonist. That's just kind of how that works.
See, that's why they did it to begin with. Why do we keep doing it?
Yeah, we
in
keep
grand
doing it,
order?
though. We
like
keep-
we
and
moved
it's more
past the
gender-
arrogate thing. Why is it still?
Right.
there is only one wife.
That's your wife.
So I'll say this about Zero. I think a lot of people can agree that Zero as a standalone work is objectively the best Type Moon work ever made.
Amen.
And it also there's a lot of discussion to be had as far as the nature of adaptations as well, because a lot of people, when you talk about an anime or you talk about a visual novel, like, oh, just read the manga, it's better. Read the manga, it's better. But you can't always say that about Zero, because Zero has an amazing soundtrack by Yuki Kojiro.
Yes.
As well as amazing voice acting, amazing visual atmosphere. Like, you can't, those aspects make that series.
It unfortunately ends with the wrong servant winning, because this should have absolutely.
It's a prequel though.
I know. You know he's not going to, but by far, like, I almost cosplayed as a Skandar, but I already have another cosplay that I hate life wearing a fake beard with. And I'm like, this is an even bigger, more annoying hating life beard.
So he gets to do it for us.
So he gets to do it. But I absolutely fell in love with the Skandar and his master's relationship.
Yes.
Every bit of it, like, he's such a fun character. I'm like, Alexander the Great was not a fun character. But his Skandar, the way they play him off, he's just so confident. Everything about him, I'm like, this is great.
Santa Claus.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, you have my character in the series, which is polar opposite, the worst human being in all of
He is the
existence.
worst character out of the anime.
He
Like,
is absolutely the worst.
Why do they call him Bluebeard when he doesn't even have a beard?
there's actually a historic reason as to why he was nicknamed
Bluebeard.
Bluebeard. Gilles de Rais was, there's actually, because that's his actual nickname in history. Gilles de Rais was a real person.
And he's not a good person in real life.
Yeah,
Jesus, Servant was based on a real person.
Well, I mean,
Well, they all were. I just didn't know why.
it's a long story.
It's a long story.
It is. I mean,
And it ends terribly.
yeah, oh yeah.
I gotta research this.
The story as to why Gilles de Rais is actually portrayed the way he is in Zero is actually pretty interesting, because if you know about his historical, like who he is, he gambled all of his wealth away, and then he got into the occult to try to make a contract with a demon to get his money back. And so that's why you have like crazy, like, I'm gonna summon demons with a book.
And we're not even talking like, we're not talking like a little bit crazy. We're talking about, they found Baphomets with blood, like Baphomets made out of blood in his basement.
And it's not blood from adults.
Yep.
That was why that was so focused on with Zero, with him and Ryunosuke, was there were skeletons of children found on his complex and stuff like that. So it's
He's a horrible,
yeah, no, it's not a nice person.
but we believe.
But the other side of things, thankfully, he talked me out of being the not so good part of things, because you
were
go
all
through a
welcome.
hobby town or a hobby lobby, and they have parts of baby dolls there. I was this close to being not this version of Bluebeard. This close.
That didn't stop our Akira cosplayer at Momocon from having a human skeleton.
Oh yeah, that was.
It was
He was part of the panel.
it was funny after a few seconds of like that initial
It
shock.
was after a few seconds of,
Yeah. How could you? Oh wait, that's actually really funny.
Oh. But like, honestly, I can agree, because like coming in, like I did watch Night with it first, but then coming in with Zero, like I almost would like to see some, like really the only thing you lose out of watching Zero if you did it a canonical order is you are immediately told, phew, Saber is Arthur.
Yeah.
That is your only, oh my god, that's your big reveal from it.
A lot of people ask, the big question a lot of people ask is, how do you get into Type Moon? Where do you start? A lot of people say either start with Aluminum Blade Works, the anime, or start with Zero, if you don't have easy access to the visual novel, because that's obviously going to be most people's first recommendation. I either say start with the visual novel or start with the Dean anime. And a lot of people are like, ooh, why do you got to sit through that? But I'm like, I'm telling you, like, you have to see that and just to appreciate just how good Zero is. And the whole concept of from the beginning you know the end actually works better in Zero's favor.
It's actually
Yeah.
fun going
Yeah.
along the mindset, especially if you've played the game, being able to watch through this anime and you are getting your routes you played through the game. Minus obvious scenes. Minus a few scenes that would be
Literally,
inappropriate
only
for
a
an
few.
of age
What is it, like
anime.
3?
So on that note, so I
The
am,
anime?
my current obsession with Fate is everything in the Extraverse, as you can tell by the way I'm dressed. So who here has played Fate Extra? Couple people. Who here has played, I won't say Extella, I'm sorry, I won't say CCC because it's not been translated, but who here has played Extella? Okay, a lot of hands. I love Extella to pieces, and I won't shut up about it, and
He won't.
so,
Now you need to do links because,
yeah, I'll talk about that. So that's my current obsession right now. And it's interesting again to see how those translated into video game form, because with Extra, there's this awesome dynamic of like, what would you do if you're in a real Grail war? You're gonna actually go, well, you see an enemy server and you're like, I picked up on some kind of visual cues from that. Let me go to the library and read up on who that is. Like, you as the player in Extra, go to the library and read up on who Francis Drake is. I'm like, that is amazing. That's kind of the part about the Grail War we don't see, is the tactical, like the strategic planning of trying to identify who your opponent is and what their strengths are. And it's brilliant. And of course the gameplay is very grindy in Extra, so you kind of have to have patience for it, and it's easy to dead end if you have not grinded so much to a certain point. Lee Wen is a, don't get me started on him. Go ahead, what were you saying?
No, that just, the comment about having to go and look up about the different servants is something that I think is interesting when it comes to, you have characters that in the series should not know the existence of these other characters, and then it's kind of an assumed thing that it's based off the Grail, because the Grail gives them knowledge of current age, and I'm assuming it also means past ages.
Well, it gives them, yeah, essentially.
So
yeah.
it's basically, if you find out the name, you're
You
screwed.
know all about them.
Yeah, so
They kinda-
I just think it's funny, like, it just made me think of, because we watched the Bruce series so many times, how they made fun of it. And it's with the Lancers that every time, it's like, oh, you must be a Lancer. Who told?
Yeah.
Giant Lancers, it's like, oh, you must be was it Kukulane?
Yeah, like they immediately twice in one night. Oh, you must be Kuchulain. Is it written on my forehead? Like, no one knew, like, none of you knew who Kuchulain was before the series. Like, no one knew.
I think it's also worth adding that a lot of the heroes themselves that make up the servants are just people that are also very smart.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
are playing mind games with each other when they meet. You see a lot of that with Saber and Diarmid actually, where they're just trying to figure each other out and analyze every little thing about their behavior. So
That was something I felt like as far as the Fate Stay Night versus Zero, and then we move on to the next topic if we want. That I thought was really interesting is that there's so much more thoughtfulness in the conflicts between the characters in Zero. And I think a lot of it's because we're dealing with adult characters.
it's also
They're
better.
not children.
Yeah, we're
It's
not,
also better written. Like,
overall it's just better.
no shade against Nasu, but Zero is better written.
Even with Unlimited Blade Works, like the Unlimited Blade Works anime is really well done and well written. The script is great, but it's just, you can tell this is a battle between high schoolers.
Yeah.
Like, there's far more drama about who likes who than there is about which servant is who and how we should fight them.
All right, so I'm gonna open up a can of worms really quick. So, who here has seen Apocrypha? Wow.
Almost the whole group.
That's
Yeah.
who here. Okay, I have to know who here started with Apocrypha. Okay, a couple people. I just had to.
I'm not mad about that, because you can honestly, you can start with that, and there's nothing in that beyond a handful of things at the end, which would be slightly confusing, but it's not anything that's going to derail the series.
Okay, so go ahead.
So like I watched one episode of Apocrypha, I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know, is there stuff before this? And then, you know, I took the first episode and then I started at Zero. So
Okay, great. That was awesome. So, the thing about Apocrypha, so the fans went nuts when we found out Apocrypha was getting an adaptation, because for those of you that don't know, what Apocrypha originally was the prototype for what eventually became Grand Order. It was a prototype for a video game that had like a team-based battle mechanic with, you know, red faction versus black faction. And the game got canned, it got canceled, and some of the designs did not get used, such as David St. George and Benkei, who eventually made their way into Grand Order. And so they took the servants that they kept. There's some art from the light novel.
I'm trying to get it.
Yeah, you got it.
It's being a pain.
So from the light novel, and
Why?
Red
Why you
team
no move?
and part of black team.
yeah,
They just do not do well with technology.
yeah.
Ah.
Who here has anybody read the light novel for Apocrypha? Okay, literally one person.
Oh, yeah.
So it was being translated very slowly. I still think we have all of it
They don't care
translated.
about the last guy.
But here's the problem with Apocrypha the anime. So you have a series that is paced and the story is told in the same way as Zero with an ensemble cast, but you have twice as many characters. So none of those characters are going to get nearly as much screen time or development as what we had in Zero. And here's the other problem, and I might get a little bit of flack for this. It's just ugly.
It is.
It's
Man,
so ugly.
it started good.
It did not start good. The first fight, the preview of the fight between Mordred and Siegfried, the sound design. Like, sound design is awful in Apocrypha.
So my biggest, so I have one amazing thing I love about it, but I will agree with Art, because one of the most amazing, cool concept fights was Achilles and Chiron.
Oh, man.
Oh my
I mean,
god.
that was such a fantastic, awesome fight. I'm like,
Yes.
it's just cool, because they both go screw weapons,
That
and
fight
it's a
was
fist
well done.
fight.
That
It
fight
was
was
so
well
well
done,
done. But man, even then, some of those do not pause the movie ever.
Yeah,
No,
the
don't.
in-between frames are
Never
like, whoa.
pause anything in a Fate series when they're doing action shots. Weird things are happening. Like, lilies are making angles that don't exist. Like, they have really bendable, flexible, like, arms. Like, this part of the arm is bent. And I'm just like,
I feel
That's
like the
not
issue
right.
was consistency, because if you look at
Yeah.
certain scenes like the Chiron and Achilles fight was well animated, looked great. The scene where Fran, I'm a fanboy for Fran and the original novel
Oh.
in general. That's why I'm going to be cosplaying Victor Frankenstein. But the scene where Fran is breaking down as she sees the visions that Shakespeare's giving her was really well animated and gorgeous. Like it looked really good. And then you see other scenes like the rest of the anime, and it's like, man, what did we do?
And here's what happened. So they got so much flack for how the animation was in the first season. They brought in new animators for the second season. And it didn't really help. Because, again, consistency. So I always say, like, the Sieg and Karna fight, they went full Studio Trigger, which looks cool if it was consistent. But you have, like, A1 animation with, like, drab backgrounds and no detail and okay-looking characters. And then they go full Studio Trigger, and it's like, what is happening? If you don't believe me, just watch the Sieg versus a Makusa fight. I ended that episode, and I was like, wow, that was a really hype fight. That was the worst animated fight scene I've ever seen in a modern anime. And I don't like saying that, because at the end of the day, I like Apocrypha. I like Apocrypha a lot. I cosplay Shiro Makusa as well, which is really funny because we get up here as the two least trustworthy characters in the entire franchise.
yeah, I gotta pause you.
Yeah.
So it unfortunately got immediately declined by AWA, but we were gonna make an 18+ Fate panel. And it was going to be hosted by Bluebeard and Omakase. So it was going to be awful. Like, I mean, it was going to be good. We were going to talk about like the original Arrowgay and go into darker parts of all of the series that you just can't appropriately talk about in a regular panel. I mean, we're almost late enough. I could probably get away with some of the stuff. And I mean, I unfortunately don't have my contacts in, but from what I can tell, we seem to have, for the most part, adult audience.
Yeah.
If we can get that panel accepted anywhere.
Okay,
you
so-
need a different version of life.
So moving
I'm
on
not
from-
buying a nude body pillow of Jean.
For one
I got the most con-safe version.
One panel.
All right, so who here has seen, because it finally aired on Netflix, who here has seen Extra Last Encore?
I didn't like it.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Reaction.
I watched Extra Last Encore when it was debuting in Japan. I didn't wait for the Netflix release. Yep. And I'm sure the dub is fine, but and I'm not a snob about dubs. I recommend the dubs for most of the other series, with one exception. But if you watch Extra Last Encore in dub, you miss out on Umu. And who wants that?
You're getting deep, though.
Indeed.
You're getting
Yeah.
deep.
So I remember the sub that I was watching for it. Actually, they decided to get awesome enough. They put an Umu counter up in the top.
Yeah.
They counted down the whole season.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. So here's the thing about Extra Last Encore. So to me, it is the exact opposite situation of Apocrypha, where Apocrypha had so much content to adapt, and they picked a terrible studio to do it, and they made it linear, and they tried to pack as much from the original source material as possible. Extra Labs Encore does the opposite problem, where it has barely any material to adapt, and so they have to take a bunch of additional stuff and put it in there to make it flow correctly. So Extra Labs Encore kind of follows the story of Extra, but instead of having like the week cycle where you get up against a new opponent every week in the Grail War, it's now like a Shin Megami Tensei style tower. It's like, better go climb the tower and fight the bosses, and that's exactly what you do. Every floor has a different master, which makes for some incredible visual scenarios as well. Like every floor, so we had A1 for Apocrypha, we have Shaft for Extra Labs Encore. So now the animation is fantastic. And think about this if you've played Grand Order and you know who her nursery rhyme is. So,
Yeah.
Animated by Shaft, and nursery rhyme is in it. There is an episode in this that is the most Shaft thing you will ever see in your life outside of Madoka Magica, and it's amazing.
It's an awful way to phrase that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. They know what I'm talking
Better
about.
phrasing.
They know what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, Extra Labs Encore. Again, you kind of have to have some established knowledge of Fate and of Extra the game to enjoy it, because it's weird. It's really weird, and it doesn't do a good job of explaining what's really happening. So, but if you have that prior knowledge going into it, I think it's a nice treat. I really did enjoy it a lot. I'm looking forward to more.
How many episodes was it?
12?
They're making
13?
it's-
They're making more.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not.
Okay.
So we're just a tad bit over 10 minutes left, so we got one more thing to really talk about, and then we will actually open it up to questions if you have it. Otherwise, we can BS talk about this for hours.
Yeah. So
But
we got to really cram in, like, let's quickly talk about Emiya Gohan, and we'll talk about Heaven's Feel. 'Cause
Oh no, I was
Heaven's
going to talk about Heaven's Feel. I mean, we can talk about Food Emiya if we want to.
I just want to say Emiya Gohan is amazing if you haven't seen it, and it's amazing. Oh yeah. Finally, this joke worked.
We did it before no one got it. We're like, oh man, come on.
Yeah, there you go. So the nice thing about Emiya Gohan is you just watch it and you're happy and you're tearing up. You're like, this is so great, and it's a show about cooking. How does that happen?
For like the last 5 minutes of
And
everything.
it's because these characters deserve to be happy, and it's so worth seeing them actually be happy. And
The meme of Emiya's dad. He's like, why is everyone so happy about him smiling? Because this is the only other expressions he has. And he's like,
This is what he looks like the rest of the time.
Right.
yes, I love that meme because like, you
love
don't
it.
think about it. You're like,
so if you want to see how like all of the massive amounts of money from the microtransactions that they're reaping in from Grand Order is being used just watch Emiya Gohan, because it's animated by Ufotable, and it is such a
it's really pretty.
sweet.
It really is fun. This guy in that series is great because he just shows up and he's a fish monger salesman. It's like, oh my god, it's great.
Yeah.
He just shows up, flings what you think is the spear, and slams it. It's a fish sign. I was like, I'm gonna put this in.
I have a reason to watch this show.
So now you got to do that version.
I've thought about it.
So the third route of Fate Stay Night, the visual novel, is finally getting its animated adaptation. So we've had the preview for this for years leading up, like ever since the Lone Blade Works series was announced, we knew this was coming. They're going to adapt it in a trilogy of movies. Who here has seen the first movie? All right, those of you who have not seen it, you are missing out.
That
It is
Berserker.
Reprioritize your priorities.
So I have it is
gorgeous.
so we saw the initial Japanese screenings.
Yep.
There was
In the theaters.
There was
Oh,
4
so good.
screenings in Atlanta, and I went to 3 out of the 4.
Yeah, I think we did too.
And then the Japanese Blu-ray is out, and it's also had its English theatrical screening. I'm sure you saw the English theatrical screening. And then the English Blu-rays are coming out later this year. And then Part 2, the Japanese release of Part 2 is coming out later this year as well. And we're very excited about that.
But do we have a date on that one yet, or?
I don't know the date, but I'm pretty sure we do.
Okay.
I know it's in November.
But I'll tell you, man, you want to talk about some gorgeous animation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so pretty.
That's definitely a Goppo table, like knocking it out of the park
Yeah.
again.
See, that immediately made me go, man. I mean, I like cosplaying Bluebeard, but that Berserker fight
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
gorgeous looking. I'm like, that's gonna be so much makeup, so much.
You can do it!
His clothing is a skirt. 80% of my body I'm gonna have to paint.
Do
We can
the
hire
tennis
Eric.
version.
Oh
Do
man.
the tennis version.
So,
So hold on, because I have the video of it. This was the version I was gonna do, and I was like, I'm not quite in shape to do 15 abs. Like the image of his artwork is like, there's too many abs. Those muscles don't exist in my body, no matter how much.
It's like Mortal Kombat physiology.
What is it? Tim? Gotcha. Carnival Phantasm is an amazing thing.
yeah.
And their sports festival, like it is by far my favorite thing ever.
No, Berserker's Errand is the best thing in this series.
I wanted to make this so bad. I've actually found a tiny tennis racket for this too.
she is precious.
Yes.
Sorry. I can't shit into it.
That racket must be made of something potent.
I need to find you a racket that's like this
No,
big.
I found one. It's one of the Wiimote rackets. It is in my basement, just sitting there waiting. I see it like every night. I was like,
One day.
eventually you will be used and it will be horrible.
A Hawaiian shirt and we'll be set.
Before we open it up to questions, I have 2 comments I want to make about Heaven's Feel the movie. Heaven's Feel the movie, I have a gripe when it comes to the fight scenes, and all of them are anticlimactic. They all end about as soon as they begin, except for your boy right here having the best scene in the movie.
Well, I have the best scene in the entire anime. Like all of the shit out of the series.
Yeah,
That opening fight is
but
always good.
all of the rest of them are very anticlimactic. Like he brags on the Hercules fight, it's over as soon as it starts.
It's so pretty.
That resulted in a hilarious scene with Shinji and Ryder though.
Oh my
The
god.
whole theater busted out laughing during that. So funny. So the other thing I'd like to say is that I know we make the jokes about the anime adaptations and how they handle the hentai scenes. Heaven's Feel finally did it right. They imply what's going on and they cut away from it. That's all you have to do. You don't have to introduce CGI dolphins and CGI dragons. They imply what's going on and cut away from it. It was handled perfectly. So
I don't know. I don't think it was his worst stuff.
no, we're not opening that can of worms. All right, so questions. Do we want to form a line and just so we know how many people we can get before we end?
Yeah, because
So-
we've got about 6 minutes. So yeah, if you guys want to form a line, feel free.
Right here.
So yes, go ahead.
What would you recommend for someone that hasn't been able to play Fate Extra? How would you watch Fate Last Encore without getting yourself mind fucked, basically?
You can honestly just watch a walkthrough of it online if it's inaccessible for you to play it,
Yeah.
and then definitely play Excel.
Oh, I have Excel.
Yeah, Excel is fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
What are servants that haven't been included in any previous works that each of you would want to see included in the future?
Altera. I want to see Altera done in an animated version.
Now, do you
He
need
means have not been
individuals that we would like to be servants?
Like to be servants.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like Jesus or something.
Satan.
Hey, actually, Satan, answer the man's question.
I would want to see St. Francis Xavier.
Yes.
Or Dante Masamune or some more people from Sengoku period.
Yes.
And because they're really adapting pretty much everybody. We just got Charlemagne in Excel Link, which I have Excel Link, but I can't really talk about it because it's brand new. So yeah, I'm going to go with St. Francis Xavier. That's what I want to see.
I would actually like to see the Victor Frankenstein
Right.
you're talking about.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Am I the only one that thinks that the sound design in Apocrypha was also a little bit off? Did it seem like the whooshes were ear
I mentioned that
deafening?
earlier. The sound design in
It was
Apocrypha is awful. It's terrible.
Yeah, you are not wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine is very simple. Can I get your friend codes after the panel for Grand Order? Or are your friend lists full?
Yes.
English, Japanese, or Chinese?
English.
Okay.
Yeah.
He unfortunately bought the Chinese one when he should have done the English and Japanese.
That's unfortunate. I'm sorry.
Yes, absolutely.
After
Thank you.
spending $25 on 10 quarts.
Are you gonna be at the photo shoot?
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
I have the Gudako cosplay and everything.
Oh, nice.
I got a Mordred coming.
Can I just get a recap of which shows or movies to skip entirely, or is it
None.
all
Oh.
watching?
Well, the Unlimited Blade works.
The Olympic Blade Works movie. Absolutely unnecessary.
Why you get to see Ilya turn inside out?
Skip. Personally, skip Prismaelia.
Hey!
Skip the first 2 seasons of Prismaelia. Watch season 3. Season 3 is good.
Okay.
Yeah. Skip the first 2 seasons of Prismaelia.
You know what's crazy is I think it
Grail.
actually
The
makes sense better. You watch
Grail.
3, then go back and
Okay.
do 1 and 2.
I'm
Yes.
done.
if you're not.
You guys think Elizabeth Bathory will ever show up in the anime?
I hope not, because I hate her voice. Hey, I love your cosplay though. You're from Valkyria Chronicles, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. I gotta hit you up later.
See, I don't know. I would like to get like just one second. So, because we got a few minutes, but I loved Apocrypha because it wasn't in the same timeline. Like
Yeah.
that. I mean, well, it in a way is, but like I love the fact that we're getting a whole cast of a huge amount of new people. I would like to get more of stuff like that, but I mean, I understand there's a lot of storytelling you got involved in when you're doing stuff like this.
See, I would like that, and I would like to, like a whole new universe, whole different 12-man or 14-man fight. And
How
like
about that?
Victor
How
Frankenstein.
about we just get that Tsukihime remake?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Why is Mordred so much better than regular Saber?
She's not.
Because she earned it.
What do you mean she?
Oh, no, that can't work either.
What do you mean he?
What do you got, Todoroki?
Go ahead.
Was the Yuri really necessary?
The Yuri, like in Dean. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm wondering why Illy,
I totally condemn that because there's an argument to be made for sure about like underage characters like lollies like that. So like I kind of condemn that. So I agree with you there. That's kind of necessary. It's just there for fan service, but I kind of condemn.
I love Yuri, but it was uncomfortable. Like the way they like put it in your
Completely
face.
agree. Completely agree.
Literally, we have like 2 minutes left, but we are out of time. I put on the board here. This is all of our contact information, and the 2 QR codes are for our Facebook group and the Discord group. If anyone wants to scan or add or anything, we can talk to you from there. And that's it for us here. We do have a photo shoot tomorrow at 2:30.
Photo shoot tomorrow.
I will be there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Stand. Stand. Photo.
All right.
Yes. Awesome. I'm gonna get out y'all's way.
So you can vote for Victor because now I'm
so
I want to do that. So you can
I want to see it.
The one thing I was disappointed in Apocrypha was the Lancer. Where? There wasn't enough.
I think it was Hollow Out Robinson. It actually had like goo in like
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
So this is I decided to go with, and then later on, Friday tomorrow, I'll have some lions from Marvel.
There wasn't enough.
That'd be so many more characters.
Honestly, I would like to see more about
Soxy, I think that is.
Excuse us behind you, sir.
It's a nice fresh resume. Yeah.
And then there's Placenta, and then
It's been loading just fine.
and then the soundtrack is awesome too.
I love your dress. I love the cat. Because you're also there with your cat. I was like, are those cats? Oh my god, it's a cat. I love
I'm so bad at this.
I enjoy Extra, and they are making Grand Order Hate, which is like another. And also, I played Phantom of the Cones
Oh yeah, that is.
fighting game.
Yeah, that's like.
So, Phantom of the Cones is a 2D/style fighting game.
I love that. I'm so humble.
And it's easily just beat around it.
You need to hold this. I haven't seen.
And it's at the same time, and I